Okay, Cameron, do you get that?
To answer your question to start with, I've actually enjoyed quite a spectacular time with the media in the last couple of weeks, and I've had no problem getting my face seen or heard. I do find, I echo the sentiment of my colleagues, that the presidential style campaign does not fit within our Westminster style of government, and I think that, it's a good question. I don't have an answer to that because it's the way that the TV and the media has directed us towards that, and consequently, these kind of conversations we have with constituents. And I said to my wife as I was driving here today, there will be, a number of people here listening to us, but you guarantee there'll be thousands of people at home watching the other debate on TV. And yet on Saturday, they're going to choose one of us based on that conversation. And I said to my wife, I said, and we've kind of got that wrong. Look, I don't have an answer to that, but to answer your question, I've actually had no problems with the media. They've been very helpful.
Okay, thanks, Cameron. Now we have another question over here. Just before I hand it over, can we keep that 3 minutes shorter than our questions, please?
Stuart Guthrie, representing solely me. I'm just wondering how many journalists there are in this room? I thought there was there's one. Good. Two.
I read all We'll be proud of your profession.
Here is a meeting with the 5 of you here, and we're not getting much media attention. I just wonder whether you have had any sort of heard anything from the media, what their sense of this meeting has been. They wanted to be here.
We had a little bit of the Mercury today, and Tim Cox announced it this morning on the radio, but I've had no phone calls asking for interviews or anything about the meeting. Other than that, very little, just handing out flyers has been the only way, and through networks we've advertised it. Okay, now we're... Okay, just bear with me while I wander around.
Hi, I'm Susan Dillon. I'd like to ask the candidates what their opinion of the situation where tax deductions are given to extremely rich people to the extent that a complete cost of the welfare system at present. Would they be doing anything to address that situation and perhaps introduce some of the things that were suggested in the Henry Review? And just very quickly, the worst disaster that's happened anywhere in the world has happened in Pakistan, where more people are affected than in Australia. And what are we doing about that, and what are your feelings on that?
Hi, yes, that's a good question. It sort of ties in with this other question about, to me it seems like, tax deductions and the mining tax, and I think that absolutely we should raise the corporate tax rate in order to be able to fund welfare, public transport, education, healthcare, all of the stuff we need. I think the mining tax, I think that was a great idea because, it was to tax super profits. These are our resources, Australians' resources, and the money could have been spent on, social, things that Australians need. But instead, in the mining industry, they hate any attack on their profits, and then they organise to get rid of the Prime Minister. Well, they have that power. And you mentioned that this was a result of presidential type election campaigning, but I actually think this is capitalism. This is how societies work all around the world. These are the people who have the most control in society. You can look at guns in Tasmania. We all know how much control guns have over the government in Tasmania. On Pakistan, yeah, it's terrifying when you watch the news about what's happening, and I think it's clear that, to me, it's a climate change issue. These disasters are going to get worse, and the same with what's happening in Russia. There's a great organisation that I've donated to, actually. It's called AFIDA. It's the ACTU, they charity, but they help, they work with grassroots organisation in Pakistan. If you're looking for a good organisation to donate to help on the ground relief in Pakistan, that would be a good one. But I think, yeah, the Australian government should send aid over there.
So I can pick up on that point about aid to Pakistan.
Could I hear from Jonathan first? We'll come back to you after Jonathan, if that's okay.
Thanks, and thanks for the question. Look, the Henry Review obviously came up with a number of recommendations, and one of those was the mining tax, which we have now got consensus on, and we're going to introduce that later in the year. And that will put a bigger tax on these huge companies, which do make huge profits. So I suppose it's about getting the balance right, and that's what that argument was about. Look, obviously we'd like to, increase the tax more where we can, but we have to. And with the mining tax, what we've done is it's about share of what we've done with the money that we're going to raise with that is build more infrastructure, improve people's superannuation, especially people that are on the low incomes. It's going to increase their superannuation, so it is a fairer system. And across the board, this government has reduced tax rates, and especially for low income earners, and ensure that we can try and support people, especially on low incomes. And it's something that the Labor Party has a strong history, and it's very focused on trying to ensure that we do protect people that are vulnerable in our community, especially on low incomes. On the question also, Pakistan and Russia, and also in China, there's been huge slides, and obviously in other issues. Look, these things seem to, they appear to be happening more and more, and they are happening, and the loss of life is awful and terrible. Look, we do, I think it is a climate change issue. I think that these people that are especially susceptible to it, and they seem to be, the mudslides in China seem to be happening more and more, and these people are already impoverished, already disadvantaged. So we need to ensure that we do continue to make process on climate change action. Thank you.
Okay. Andrew.
Yeah, I just want to talk to that whole issue of foreign aid in Pakistan in particular. We are, per capita, one of the wealthiest countries in the world. If we can't help developing countries, and particularly developing countries in times of crisis, if we can't do it, then who can? Many of you would be aware that in the year 2000, Australia agreed to the Millennium Goals, that by 2015 we would have increased our foreign aid 0.7% of gross national income. Currently Australia, 10 years down the track, 2/3 of the way to that goal. Currently we're allocating, this is including recent increases, 0.34% of gross national income. In other words, only half of our Millennium Goal target, and that's 0.14% below the average for other developed countries. I think that is very poor. It is unacceptable, and I really think we should, we have the capacity more than any other country to be paying 0.7% of gross national income now. It's our ethical obligation, it's our contractual obligation as a signatory of the Millennium Goals, and it's in our own self-interest. Because if you reduce the poverty in countries like Pakistan, then if you give those people a job, if you give them food, you give them education, you give them law and order, you give them hope, then those people are going to be less inclined to rise up and to cause strife. There's going to be less chance of civil war. There's going to be less chance of these places being breeding grounds for terrorist threats that can go outside their borders. There are 101 reasons, ethical and other reasons, why we should increase our foreign aid substantially. And I would call on the Labor and the Liberal candidates to commit to try and achieve that in the term of the next government. Because let's face it, I'll make the point again, for the last 15 years we've had the coalition government, we've had the Labor government, but still we are only half of the way to our Millennium Goal.
Thanks, Andrew.